Good afternoon and welcome to the April 3rd City of Coos Bay Parks Commission work session. We will get going here with roll call. We'll start at the end.
Christina Teixeira, City of Coos Bay.
Arv Shaboti.
Bill Davis.
Jamie Faraday.
Carmen Matthews.
Ariane Lyons.
Kirk Benward.
Greg Hamblett.
Christine Sylvester.
Thank you so much. For our work session today, we have two items of discussion: the skateboard park, tennis court fence replacement or demo, and the discussion of safe routes to school plan. Greg, will you go ahead and kick us off with the skate park?
Sure.
I just want to say I'm online.
And Patty's online. Thank you, Patty.
Good afternoon, Patty. Basically on the evening of March 12th, presented to the Parks Commission for a recommendation. Staff estimates that the cost to remove the fence support structure to be approximately $500. Tristan is here, he was here at the regular Parks Commission meeting last month to talk about this as well. He's here today as well, and maybe can provide some more insight. But the staff has definitely done their homework and make sure that we got all the information to provide to the commission regarding the demolition. Would cost about $500 to remove the rest of that structure if staff were to contract that out.
So, in the conversation was to either replace it or demo it, and
That's the
demo is just $500. It's done. We can utilize the tennis court area, flat surface for additional skate area.
correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And is interesting. That's in line with what you were thinking as well, to utilize the space.
My recommendation is to take the fence down, obviously. I'm not sure where the $500 comes in on that. Is that the dump fees?
Staff time, dump fees, making sure that the posts are, the concrete surface is level. So any repairs to the deck that may have to be incurred with that.
Okay, I was just curious on that. I can go in and cut the posts, excavate, and just blacktop the holes so they're sealed. The city provided the blacktop. That'd basically be the only cost that I see, other than hauling away the old fencing, which can be recycled. So,
Okay.
but I'm willing to volunteer yet again. So,
Awesome. Thank you. Do we have any commissioner questions or comments?
I guess I have a question on, is there anything that we need to do to redesignate that area, or public notice, or, I don't know, I mean, there's no legal designation or change of use protocol that we would need to do? I have no idea.
I don't think that there's a designation for that area as specifically to be used for as a tennis court. I think it's just designated as a tennis court because that's what it's historically been.
That's what it looks like.
I would probably, maybe, I'm not sure what council may require, but they may require some level of public comment on that, or maybe some public opportunity to talk about that. I'm not sure.
Yeah, when I was reading through this, Carmen, I know lots of times whenever we make a change to, but I will say skateboards make noise too, and I've walked by there and there's been sound machines or music boxes out and people playing music while they skateboard. So and when I go by there and I walk by there frequently, I'll see probably never more than double digits of skateboarders. So, 10, maybe 15 at the most when it's busy. So, I'm not saying it's not used. I'm just saying there needs to be some consideration as far as the use is concerned. I will tell you, when I walked by there the other day, I saw some skateboarders crawling over the back fence to get in there. And I understand they want to use it. And I have no idea. When I looked at the pictures, I saw there's some cracks in that area. I have no idea. Maybe it isn't even possible to use it as a tennis court without some repair. So, that's a factor to take into consideration as well. So, I don't think it's simply a matter of does it cost $7,000 or it costs $500. I think there's some other things that need to be taken into the mix as well. And I hesitate to say this too, and I don't mean it in a bad way, but we don't know who did it, but knowing how it was done, it probably gives us some.
Other communities of similar size on the coast, in my opinion.
Can I speak
Yeah.
for a second?
Please.
I was part of the group that raised the money for the skate park. I was also part of the crew that built the skate park. CBay, Citizens for Bay Area Youth, they were in existence for 5.5 years before we broke ground and built what we had. In that time, the president actually pushed for the largest skate park on the West Coast. It was going to be, I think, 33,000 square feet. It was to encompass the tennis courts, the back hillside, the spot the skate park is on, the basketball hoops, the horseshoe, and the walking path, and utilize up to the sidewalk. It was $1.3 million. We managed to raise $88,000 in 5 years. This organization self-imploded. I ended up as president at the time, and I pushed to spend the funds that we had raised, and that's how that skate park got there. But originally, it was supposed to be the largest one on the West Coast.
Yeah, and I say that not as because I'm really proud that we have it, and I know that it was a grassroots effort.
Yeah.
I'm saying that it would be nice if it had more support outside of just the skate community to create such an
I
entity.
fully agree.
Yeah, yeah.
We actually spent $20,000 on a set of plans for that as well. And then council rolled over. They told us absolutely not and had us throw them away.
You don't happen to have a set of those plans anymore, do you?
Somewhere on an old hard drive, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I look at that big bank, and I'm
yeah,
like,
it was
oh,
cool.
man, it's already there.
So I guess I suppose if I were a skater and had been coming to this park commission and perhaps the city council, and nothing was done, I know how easy it is to take down chain link fence. And because I've done it. Not this one, but, and
We are being recorded.
again,
you
I'm
know
not
that,
saying
right?
that this was to push the issue, but it kind of feels like that to
So-
me. Does anybody else have that sort of?
The last time I stepped up and volunteered, I think I put a little over 500 hours in, somewhere in there, in 6 weeks to make sure the park was reopened. During that time, I evaluated the skate park on what other repairs needed. One of those was actually that fence was loose. So it's not like they took down a perfectly good fence. That fence has been falling over for quite some time. It could have been they decided to take it down because it was unsafe. I can't tell you that. I took a huge step back from the skateboard park and haven't been down there in quite some time. I still fully support it, and skateboarding kind of changed my life, so I'm here.
And along with Kurt's question, is there interest in either tennis? And I remember you saying that there was not much use in the tennis court for tennis. Pickleball, I don't know. And you can get 2 pickleball courts in a tennis court, and I looked online, and you can get at least one. I was thinking maybe there's a middle ground here where we put one move the fence, add to and put one pickleball, but I'm just saying. But I did also note, I do also walk by the skate park tennis court, and I did a little rough calculation. The total area of the skate park and the tennis court is about 21,000 square feet. The skate park takes up about 65% of it at this moment. We're talking about the possibility of making it completely 100% skate park, no court. But if we were to put in a single pickleball, that would be about 8% of that area. that's just information I brought today, just because I wanted to just, think about different ideas, different ways of looking at this. So I don't know where we go from here, but I do think we do need to get some input from those who may have interest in the tennis court or / pickleball court possibility. And if there is none, then I think we can move forward a little more confidently with increasing the skateboard park into that space.
What
Does that make sense?
What is the average cost of a pickleball court?
I have no idea.
Mostly just striping, I believe, right?
And I think we do have a lot of tennis courts around that don't really get used, and there's some just down the road, kind of behind Mingus Park, but we don't really have any other skate parks, and to build a skate park somewhere else, probably is not very likely. So I think this is an opportunity. In tennis, it's kind of 2, maximum 4 people playing at a time, but skateboarding there can be dozens, and so it just gets a little bit more use, I would say, than the tennis court does. Better use of space.
On the pickleball court, I know that in Bandon, that's what they did, is convert some tennis to pickleball. It cost them about $10,000, if I remember right.
Yeah, because the striping and the putting the poles in the different direction. So my understanding, and I don't play tennis or pickleball, and I tried skateboarding for about 18 minutes, and my hip still has never forgiven me. But yeah. I kept the skateboard though. It's like a trophy from surviving going down the hill. But I'm in agreement. I mean, I think that we've discussed expanding the skate park for a very long time. This is kind of a stopgap measure. My understanding with pickleball is lots of times there's a cluster of people that do it. So I think that it's important, and we should be adding pickleball to our resume of facilities that we have. But I'd like to see some of the double courts converted so that more people can play in a cluster at the same time, instead of just a one-off pickleball court, is my opinion on that one.
Is the tennis court up the hill, is that a double tennis court? It's a double. Seems like it'd be a good place for housing all of that activity.
I walk there too, probably like Jamie does as well. Because we're in the same neighborhood, and it doesn't get used very often either. Tennis is kind of on the decline. You know, if the choice is it's going to be a tennis court or a skateboard area, I would probably go skateboard, because I just don't see the tennis court doing it. But you know, pickleball courts, there's some out at SWAC. And I know behind the junior high school over in North Bend, they've converted some of their tennis courts to pickleball courts. You might want to check with them to see what the cost is as well. But they tend to be used, so.
And one more thing to advocate for the ones that are behind Mingus Park, the parking's a better situation there. You can park, go play your pickleball, and get back in your car, versus downtown where you have to park, fight whoever's your parking situation for Mingus, because there's not enough parking.
Okay. So. Yeah. I think those are good points. You know, I'm not against converting it all to skateboard. I really do think, however, just for due diligence, we need to ask the property owners around there what they think about it, right? And I'm not saying you're going to get positive or negative comments necessarily one way or the other, but I think you need to. It would be appropriate to ask them. So. Yeah, that makes sense. Because when we considered putting in the bike lanes from Front Street down, you know, we talked to some of the property owners. I know Harv talked to some of the property owners as well, and so they were kind of in the loop. So all of a sudden the city's out there doing stuff and changing everything all over, and they don't know what's going on. If it was me, I would be upset.
Yes, yeah. You used to see the letters I've written over the years. One included, I'm on 5 committees, and yet somehow I've not been notified. So we cannot take any action at this time. Do we want to continue discussion, or Greg, do you have enough to move on so that we can make a decision at the next meeting?
So what we can do is we can coordinate with our planning department, see, you know, how the area is zoned and how the whole planning department would look at the tennis courts there. And then what we can do is bring that information to the Parks Commission, and we would take any recommendation from the Parks Commission to the council.
Okay.
Do we need more discussion for focusing on a recommendation, or is that an actual decision that we can't make in this?
We can't make that decision
We
today.
can't make a
No,
recommendation.
No
No.
decisions today, no recommendations today.
This is just discussion.
Work session, yeah. Well,
Which
And-
is an aside, I have always found interesting, we can't make decision in work session, but because of some involvement on the county library board, I was involved in a commissioners meeting in a work session, and the county commissioners can make decisions in work sessions because that's the way they set it up, just saying.
so you can just change the rules is what you're saying? Yeah, all right, I like that.
Good to know.
Here, I changed the rules.
Any additional comments about 2A skateboard park, tennis court? No? All right.
Thank you
Jim.
for your willingness to keep volunteering for this effort.
Mhm.
Thank you. And if you find those plans.
Excuse me, I have one more comment too. The only thing I feel bad about is that, you know, if we push this off too far, that the place is taped off and blocked off from skateboarders from using the regular skateboard place, right?
Right.
And I feel bad about that. So, you know, if we drag this out for a couple of months and they can't use the skateboard, that skate park, that doesn't quite seem fair. I don't know if there's any way to do anything in the interim to open it back up to them and still not cause a great safety hazard either. So,
Well, that was part of pushing it to the work session, so we can have this conversation, so that we can take action at the next meeting,
okay.
one way or the other.
So can you guys put it on the agenda for a decision
Yeah.
next meeting
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
this workshop session? The reason I ask is June 21st, every year, is National Go Skateboarding Day.
Nice.
I'd like to see it open by then,
So
one way or the other.
our next.
And I know
meeting-
things take time, but
Our next
May.
meeting is when?
April 20-something.
April 24th?
Mm-hmm.
So that would mean we could potentially push it to the council meeting. I mean, can it be a week and a half and get to the May 6th
To approve everything we do.
agenda item?
Well, yeah, I'm not sure. I think
I'm-
realistically, timeframe wise, I don't know if that would be enough time to get public notice out and all that for if they want public comment.
Would it be possible for the commission, the Parks Commission, to come to a consensus tonight and say, and pass that on to the next council meeting?
We're not really supposed to do that.
And just to say that we're in favor of
Can
whatever,
we just be an agenda
without it
item?
becoming a motion?
You
So-
could take a straw poll. It's not official, but just
That way it could maybe
poll
get
people on how they're
rolling
feeling about
faster?
it.
They won't have to wait 2 or 3 months?
I don't know how to answer that question. I apologize, Jennifer. Consensus, yes. Consensus, yes.
Okay. So I guess the question is there a consensus that removing, at this time, and we can always revisit the utilization of that area, because, I mean, if you look at the giant crack that's going through it, there's a lot of issues going on with that section anyway. Even if we did convert it, I'd hate to throw in money converting it to pickleball without having to resurface the entire thing. So for minor expense, converting it to removing the fence and allowing it for skateboard use at this time, while we explore Mingus Park master plan. that-
You're good. Yeah, I think it would, and someone else can correct me, but I think it would be not only taking out those posts where the fence was, we would probably be taking out the stanchions for the tennis nets as well. And those would be more difficult, I think, to replace if you changed your mind or did something else. So just saying. I would have concerns about, and I don't know either. Just like Greg, I can't answer it, but it's kind of like if the consensus is we support it, that's kind of like making a recommendation. And I don't know if the way our rules are, I don't know if we can do that in a work session.
All right, I have another question.
Yeah.
We have staff here. Staff is going to be meeting with other staff in a general staff meeting. Is this something that we could start the city council having a discussion on? Not with a recommendation from the Parks Commission, but then to at least get the ball rolling on, hey, what does the city council feel?
Can't we just say as a Parks Commission, it's a safety hazard and this is what we did, and if you don't like it, then we can revisit a master plan for the Mingus Park?
You are such a rebel.
Yeah, I didn't eat until like an hour
Uh-oh,
ago, so
yeah.
Okay, so council did actually pass this down to you folks to discuss. So I think if we can get consensus, but it seems like there's a lot of questions, and I definitely agree with Kurt that anything we do, we should send out a letter just informing the public of what our intent is. So if this body can get to a consensus, we can send out that letter, we can take the recommendation to the city manager, and then she'll direct us.
Okay.
Does that sound fair?
That sounds much more
Okay.
streamlined, since the city council pushed it to us. I didn't.
But- Yeah, so, and council does consensus at work sessions, but it's
Okay.
just, it has to be consensus, it's not majority. So I'm not trying to challenge you guys, just.
Yeah, we understand.
Okay, thanks, thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Well, I'd like to say that I like the idea of moving forward with removing the safety hazards of the fence posts and net stanchions from the tennis court area.
My question is on the net stanchions, won't they go in the other direction anyway if we go to pickleball?
I'm sorry. Aaron, what did you say?
Aren't the stanchions in the wrong spot anyway for pickleball?
Yeah, they probably are, because the courts are much smaller.
Yeah.
The net may be about the same height, but the courts are much smaller. So, yeah, you would need to replace them regardless if you were going. And I would bet that, Harv's thing about how much it costs down there, I'm kind of with Carmen, most of it's striping, but I'll bet you what cost money was putting in the new netting requirements. Mm-hmm. That's where they spent money. And again, I don't know how many they did down there, or they did more than one, so that may have been 10,000 for two, or however many. 3? Two, yeah. Mm-hmm. So about $5,000 a court, so.
Which would be less roll time if we did it in one location where there's two courts.
Yeah. Anyways, I would like public comments for sure before sending out the letter is a great idea, and get some comments before doing it, and that information could come back and be available to City Council when they're ready to make a decision. So I'm fine with Carmen's suggestion as far as consensus is concerned.
Okay.
I as well. My questions that I had today have been answered to lead me to the same conclusion,
Okay.
that we should expand and remove the impediments.
Okay. Bill?
I agree that the consensus of it's less expensive and probably making it safer for the skateboarders. So I would go with the consensus and then go from there.
Okay. Harv?
Yeah, I'm on board as well. I think that helps move it forward, and I think that's what we're looking for here.
All right, thank you. Patty?
Yeah, I concur with the discussion.
Okay. Patrick?
Also agree.
Okay, awesome. We have consensus. Thank you so much. We're moving things forward. We are going to roll down to work session item 2B, discussion of the Safe Routes to School draft plan. Greg?
Just wait on my computer to catch up with us.
We're making things happen today.
So I probably won't read all 115 pages of the report. So here in front of us is the draft plan from Alta Planning Design Group. They were hired by ODOT in conjunction with the Safe Routes to School grant that the city received at the urging of the Parks Commission. So this purpose of this gathering today for this portion of this is to just discuss the plan, the draft plan that Alta Planning has delivered to us, so we can have a more robust conversation with the Parks Commission and make sure that they've encompassed what we discussed at the March 2nd, I think it was. The March 2nd Parks work session. So with that, I'll turn it back over to you folks. We have a 109-page report that's attached to this, so.
Oh, sure. I was just, I have to up front say this, and I don't mean it in a derogatory way necessarily, but I was really disappointed by the report. I didn't think it was very well organized. It was difficult to understand and follow. I'm not even sure that in some instances it really reflected the suggestions that we had from our last park board meeting with some representatives from the management team that did it. So I mean, I just don't think it was that well written report in it. And I've got specific things to talk about, but you know, when you start reading the report and it says, here's the people that were on the management team, and Harv has all of a sudden become Harvey on the front page. And when you get down to Marshfield High School, all of a sudden they have 7,821 students as an enrollment. You start thinking maybe they didn't pay a lot of attention to detail. You know, I like I said, for the life of me, I had a great deal of difficulty understanding the financing and the cost estimates, which I think are tantamount to some of this as well. And when I went through it, you know, there was a designation and a column on the side that would say, well, this looks like it's an ODOT grant possibility, and everything else was like the city or long-term funding, and I'm not 100% sure how that related to their cost estimates. I just found it a confusing report that maybe didn't address some of the issues that we talked about. So I'll give you one specific one first, and that was out at Sunset when the school representative was there and we talked about all this stuff. And Sunset has a real problem, you know, with dropping kids off in school buses and all that sort of stuff. I thought the general recommendation from us was to go ahead and look at on school property, having that bus route go from Madison down below up to Sunset and get rid of some of that drop off with the buses out on the top. And yet when I look at their recommendations, it's kind of a secondary comment after they talk about striping or something in a place. And so I have no idea if there's cost estimates in there for that. I know the school representative was very supportive of that. So I don't know, like I said, I'm just disappointed in the report, that's all.
Well, and I think I agree with that. That was like the one element that we had, speaking of consensus, a large consensus and advocacy for was that central drop zone. And so not seeing it in the report is disappointing. Jamie?
Yeah, it says explore the possibility, yeah. So, yeah, it's left dangling.
And if there's no pretty picture involved, then it gets lost in the report. I mean, honestly, that's how it works with a lot of things. It disappears because it transitions from person to person. So, Kurt, do you have additional comments?
I have lots of them, but maybe we could let some other people talk about them. But I'll just say a couple of general things that have nothing to do with the report. I had no idea the poverty level for the Sunset schools was at 58%, which was really distressing for me, I have to be honest with you. In between the two projects, Sunset and around Marshfield High School, the Sunset one to me is most important because they're smaller children that are involved and they sometimes make bad decisions. And the level of need out there that, you know, I think it's a really important thing to go with. And I know it was too late to add into this, but, you know, one of the criteria that they used was student density. And by not, and in their report, and I know it was too late to add in, I get all that, but you lose something when you don't consider the Madison Elementary School and the Sunset School together as far as student density is concerned. And you lose something when you don't consider the junior high school and the high school together for student density, because I really do affects that. And I do think the traffic pattern around Marshfield is a disaster, but I worry about the smaller kids out at Sunset, to tell you the truth. So we'll let other people talk for a while, and if some of the things I have questions about don't come up, I'll come back in and talk.
Okay. Jamie?
I missed that last meeting. Were they were here? And it was-
No, they weren't here. We just looked at the report and provided our
It's-
unfiltered comments.
It seems like they should be. You know, there should be a dialogue going point by point, though we aren't the consultants.
Harv?
I think my maybe the same consensus. It was kind of like the initial work they did, I thought was very good in terms of all the various different proposals that they had. The interesting thing seems to be something got lost in between some of that initial work and after we met. That's the part that I'm not sure that they really picked up or included. Again, there's a ton of recommendations in there I'd love to see happen. In that sense, I think they did an adequate job in terms of identifying possibilities and projects, not only for them, for ODOT, but for us as well. It just, it seems that they lost a little bit, and maybe it was the fact that they weren't here, or they didn't have a recording, or didn't look at the recording. I don't know.
Yeah, it's good feedback. Patrick, do you?
Yeah, I agree. I thought it was kind of confusing, hard to sort through, but, as far as when their recommendations are going to be implemented, and if, how does that, are there funds to do that, or is it?
Do you want to?
Oh, you missed the training
Greg.
session, Patrick.
So this is a planning level document. So what the next steps are is we take this planning level and we will apply for a construction grant based off of this planning document. And so I believe the planning or the construction grant is towards the end of this year, or towards the summer. I can't remember the time frame. It's later on. It's this year is the construction grant cycle. So this document will then be converted or used to apply for a construction grant.
And correct me if I'm wrong, so this is a generalized planning document. This is like a collection of ideas and things. And then there'll be design docs, which we hopefully will get feedback into, where we can say, these are some of our ideas that are missing. These are some of the information that is there. So this is like a guideline for where we want to go. But I agree that the guideline, what we do tend to find in doing this process is if the thing you want isn't real pretty and bold, it tends to get lost because there's different people involved once you get to that next step. So I think that's the onerous now becomes more great on us and on city staff of making sure that some of that is translated correctly into what we want to see in the end. Jamie?
Excuse me. I used Google Earth when I went through this whole plan, and for the most part, they are hitting what needs to be done, striping, curb cuts, that sort of thing. The things they need to, the standard things, the status quo things need to be done are there. And so I think it's mostly on target, but there's some things in there that just don't make sense that I would love to go be on the ground with them to say, okay, I see this, that's what you're saying too. Okay, why are we going down this hill with ADA when it's over ADA grade? I don't know, is it, or maybe that's standard for in-place streets, to say, well, maybe they'll use an electric wheelchair or something, but there are items in here that I would really like to visit with this group on the ground with these proposals to say, yeah, that makes sense, but this does not, and before they go for their final one. Is that at all possible in the next steps?
So the Parks Commission, the project management team met, and then we gave them the recommendations. And those recommendations were for Sunset School, recommendation 1, recommendation 22, and incorporating some signage associated with that. And then for Marshfield High School was recommendations 8 through 12, and in recommendation number 9, specifically 9.2, and then recommendation number 15. Those are the recommendations by the Parks Commission, the project management team to Alta. And so the costs that are in here in this document are based off of, or supposed to be based off of those recommendations. And so that's why the recommendations that you see are what is included in that. Does that answer your question, Jamie, as to why some of these are included that you may have questions on?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And I don't see the roundabout in there anymore.
You don't see the what?
The roundabout. Was that stricken at the last
That
meeting?
was not recommended by the PMT
Right, yeah,
or the
right,
Parks
right.
Commission.
I think primarily my comment is because it was such a, and it has been a long talked about, is the roadway bus drop off between Sunset and Madison, and having that not as prominent and not as highlighted. You know, it is something to explore, but I worry that gets lost as things move forward.
And that is not in the calculated cost estimate?
Exactly. And that's it. It's an expensive endeavor.
I would imagine that it is.
So that's my main concern, because that was something that we saw as being important. I think that it would be a benefit for the surrounding neighborhood traffic-wise, and it had the strongest consensus, not only from us, but the team and the school. So that's my number one takeaway from this that I feel is really missing, because that's something that is going to be incredibly expensive to design, and it's going to be incredibly expensive to build.
And that's on my notes as well. The question was, where is this?
Yeah.
Why wasn't it considered, or why isn't it in this document?
So, because that's the biggest piece. Marshfield is the disaster, but I agree with Kurt. The younger children in that area, the fact that we're seeing an increase in the younger age population, I think that's an area that is of concern, and so I was disappointed that wasn't there.
Yeah, I mean, it's mentioned, you were talking again about that road through there,
Yeah.
yeah. And that's their recommendation number 26 in this report. And like I said, it's kind of like a sentence after they talk about doing something else. I mean, if you look at those pictures, and I haven't been out there for a long time when kids have been dropped off and stuff, but, you know, it's, parents
I live
are.
on Ocean, and it's a disaster on Ocean,
Yeah.
a mile and a half away.
Yeah, and so it's just not, and I totally agree with you, they didn't focus on the things that we thought were important. So for example, they have a picture in there of that dirt path on Flanagan Avenue, and we talked about that, but that wasn't one of our priorities, but yet so much of it is diffused with this other stuff that you don't focus in on the things that are really important. Well, so one question, just to help me understand how they did this, when they went through all those recommendations, there's a column off to the side, and it kind of says, like, some of them say long-term planning, some of them say city do something, right? But every once in a while, they have the one in there that says ODOT SRTS construction grant. And so I think they were highlighting those particular items to say, these are good things to apply for an ODOT construction grant, which is great, but I don't know how they came to that determination. Did they come to that determination because they were costly ones? Did they come to that determination because they had the most benefit? I couldn't find anything in there that would explain to me why they picked those particular items to be ones that would be interested in an ODOT construction grant. And then the second thing is, I'm not quite sure how that all ties in. When they do those money amounts in the back for the recommendations, how do I see where those money amounts tie with those things that they say are the ODOT construction grant ones?
So I think I can answer
Good.
that question. So speaking of Sunset School, item number 1. Item number 15, and this is in the draft plan document. And item number 26 are the recommendations that the Parks Commission and the PMT suggested. So I believe, and I'm just, this is my rationale for why those are listed as ODOT SRTS construction grant priorities. I believe that's why that is there,
Is because we said they were a priority.
because we said they were for the priority. Now, I'll caveat that with saying, for number 1, they only included the installation of permanent striping to designated drop-off lane on Michigan. They didn't include the rest of item number 1, which was the consideration to do other things. The bus drop-off interior between Madison and Sunset, or the alternative of dropping the kids off in the designated bus drop-off that they have right there off of Cammon. But I believe that's why those 3 are designated as ODOT SRT as construction grant priorities. So I hope maybe that may answer your question, but once again, I'm just basically reading the document. Those align with the priorities that the Parks Commission and the PMT identified as being priorities.
I get that, but and I know you're talking about Sunset, but if I look at the one for Marshfield High School, recommendation number 14 is Central Avenue and 10th Street intersection. I don't even think we talked about that very much. And I'm not saying it's not important, but that one's cited as an ODOT SRT construction grant priority.
We did not talk about that one. You're
Yeah,
absolutely
and so it
correct.
just kind of got thrown in there, and then they also think it's one that ought to be part of the construction grant. So, again, like I said, I'm disappointed. For me at the high school, it's how does the traffic flow come out of the junior high school parking lot and the high east parking lot at the high school onto 7th Street, that's important. And then how are pedestrians protected walking down 7th Street, walking down Golden, walking down Hall, because that's how all the kids at lunchtime, I shouldn't call them kids, all the young folks at lunchtime go down to McKay's or McDonald's or Bimart or whatever. And so having good pedestrian safeguards for them are important. The traffic coming out of the parking lots is really a difficult situation there. But so I was amazed when I saw Central Avenue and 10th Street intersection ODOT construction grant priority when it wasn't one we talked about, and there's lots of things to spend ODOT money on right next to the high school. Again, I'm just disappointed in the report, and I'm sorry I'm being negative about it, but I mean, if the city employees had done this, we would say, my goodness, they did a terrible job. But the city employees don't do terrible jobs.
This is Cricket Souls, and I'm sort of speaking for Eli Ashton from Marshfield in absentia. He found some of the similar things. I know the person that came and presented, he also had very strong thing about getting biking and the rolling part, which is good. But when Eli looks at some of that stuff, he says, we don't even deal with that many people out in the southwest area and that, and why are they worrying about that? And just like you said, the main things are the right downtown and coming out of that parking lot. So he knew he wouldn't be here, but he made some comments in the margin. And very much go with what Kurt said, and, we'll submit these to Greg, and they can have further construction and the raised ramps and the raised other things. No, the parking thing, and my question is, why is it $25,000 to adjust the lights so there's an interval for pedestrians get a head start? So there were definitely some weird price differences in there too. So I'll give this to Greg, and he'll have it, and you can go from there.
Thank you so much.
Is this a copy? It's a copy. Okay, perfect, thank you. Oh, okay, thank you.
Do we have any other commissioners that would like to provide comment?
Did we not talk about Central and 10th Street? I feel like we did.
We did, but we said it wasn't as big of a deal
Okay.
as closer to the high school. So
Yes.
our consensus was, if we get a lot of money, we're gonna spend it, but the nucleus is the high school, and then we'll branch out from the high school, fixing things as far as we can spread that money to go.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if somehow they picked up on something that we did talk about, but
Yeah.
I don't remember it being a priority.
And I'm a bike guy, but it's pedestrian and bike. And particularly for the high school, there's a lot of pedestrian. And I think that needs to be a real priority. So, I mean, I would love to see more bike lanes around the high school and all sorts of stuff, but in actuality, the pedestrian issue and then the car traffic is the big thing around there.
Absolutely.
So, and I wish people would give a better place for people to park their bikes, because they might get a little bit better stuff. And, I looked at this, and safety is a big concern, and so there's other things that no one ever looks at. For example, I should have driven out by Sunset and probably by the high school too to make sure, but there's nothing in there about street lighting, for example. And schools, particularly in the winter months, there's dark hours when kids are coming and going from those schools, but is putting in light stanchions something that can be done with safe routes to schools? I don't know. But to me, it was like, it's just another issue of making the whole pedestrian, vehicular traffic, and bicycle traffic safe around these schools. So anyway.
Greg, do you want any more from us?
Well, the only thing I would say is if you have any written comments that you would like us to bring forward to the Alta Design folks, if you want to email them to me, I can make sure we get those passed along to them. That way we can have a united front, if you will, so we'll make sure that all the information is being disseminated to them. And that way we hopefully have a better final report.
And again, I'll just reiterate, so that the central road that will go between Madison and Sunset, it's a huge expensive project. All of that, almost everything else in the list, we can piecemeal over time. But that is one large, giant lump sum that has to be done at the same time. So that's why I saw this as an opportunity for a project of that scale. While all the other stuff is really important, and I think there are good things in there, we can take an intersection at a time and deal with it. Not the most efficient way to do it, but we can.
Agreed.
All right. Any other additional commissioner comments regarding safe routes to school?
So just so clear, for clarification for me, what's the next step that happens from this? This is kind of still the draft, and then you give them a little more feedback, Greg, and then they just make a final one? And if so, where does it go?
Well, I'm hoping that we we'll give them some feedback. I believe we meet, the project management team will meet with them, I believe it's on the 9th, to discuss this draft document. We'll provide comment to them, and then I hope that they give us another, I hope we get another draft based off of those comments, or get an opportunity to review it before we go to a final, because like you said, the quality of this draft is pretty low. So I'm hoping that we get another opportunity to view it before it goes into a final draft. I'm not sure, but I could find out.
And then what happens with the final product? Where does it go, and what do we do with it?
Well, I think that'll be delivered to the to city, and then from there, we can use that as a, like I said, to go after the Safe Routes to School construction grant with that document.
And you know, so I guess who would make up that grant request to go out for the construction one? Would that be somebody inside the city's wheelhouse?
I think with the Safe Routes to School, that may be Alta or I'm not exactly sure. So I don't want to answer a question with bad information. I'd like to get you that answer.
Okay. I ask for two reasons. One, I just like to know who it is. But the second one is, I would hope that whatever the final report is, this final report is, it gives the information that next person or body needs to be able to write a good construction grant request, right?
Well, because it's part of the fluff, like at the beginning. So like a lot of the pages and the fluff and all of that stuff's in there. Fluff is in the data, you know, the reduction of kids walking to school and all of that stuff. So that's designed specifically for the ODOT Safe Routes to School grant, but also so that we can go after different granting mechanisms that, you know, like Ford Foundation or stuff like that, that might have opportunities for matches or continuations or additional funds. So it has that meat and potatoes in there that is that typical thing that each grant's going to look for.
I just want to make it as easy as possible for the people that have to do that to have the information that they need, which would include cost estimates and stuff as well. Who did, when we submitted the Front Street project down there, who actually did that? Was that city, or was that somebody that we hired to do that?
For the Oregon.
For the Front Street
Community
project?
Path Grant, the city did that.
Yeah, and did a great job, but it's a better job than this one. But it's just like, I want to make sure whoever has to do that, so if it's the city again, they have the information that they need, so they have a good chance of being successful and getting a construction grant. That's all.
Jennifer?
Yeah, just to add on to what Greg said, I believe we have to make this part of the TSP. So there's going to be that process before we go to the for the construction grant. We'll confirm that, but that's what I thought I read. I agree with the chair. We need to beef up option 1 for Sunset, and I'd even go so far to maybe say we have them break up these 2 cost estimates, one for Marshfield, one for Sunset, because we have their detailed backup for all of their cost estimates, and in every single one they have MOB, traffic control, erosion control, and if we combine these projects, they're going to be one, so you're not going to get those hits every single time. And so I just think that we have to remember, and it's hard for me, I'm the engineer, I'm not a planner. This is a planning document. It's very high level, but I think there are some key things. I think we can capture it from this meeting and convey that to Alta and the PMT. Jamie, Carmen, I think you both are on the PMT, if you can. Well. I'm sorry?
Harv as well.
Harv as well. Forgive me, Harv. Downtown Association, yes, and Parks. So you guys can help us convey this to Alta, and then we can get that a more precise planning level document. And then if it's going to be like how we did East Side with the Safe Routes to School, a planner did this level as well. And then when the construction grant, we were able to procure an engineer. So it was actually a local engineer that did the design for that. I don't know if those rules have changed, but that's how we've done it in the past. So this time we were assigned this, kind of an arranged marriage, but that's okay. We're going to make this work. But so that might alleviate some of your concern.
I only have one other concern. Is Harv to have to bring in a birth certificate? Get his name changed?
No.
Yeah, and
okay, good. Thank you, Harv.
And I think it goes back to, because this is a high-level document, and like I said, it moves on to different entities and different people, that we need to make sure that the things that are important to us are big, bold, highlighted.
Captured.
And has the image. Because we're humans. We go to the image. Even if that's our professional job, is to read through the little bits. We focus on the image because that is usually what's most important, has an image attached to it. So that's back to why I was disappointed to not see that element.
Agreed. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'd also point out that Christina as well is part of the PMT as well. So we have good representation, not only as Parks Commission, but also as a PMT here today as well. So
Thank you. Any additional commissioner comments in regards to the Safe Routes to School? No? All right. Any additional staff or commissioner closing comments?
Speaking of Safe Routes to School, the National Walk or Ride Your Bike to School Day is on May 7th, and I plan on applying for their registration, at least for an event that would be going towards Lighthouse School. It's just the one that I interact with. It seems to be kind of an easy one for me to approach. We've done this last year where we met at the library and then we chose a path and rode bikes with basically a bike parade or a bike bus that went all the way to Lighthouse School, which is outside of the city's Safe Routes to School plan. And I plan on asking all of you if you'd be willing to or interested in helping to chaperone kids along that route, starting fairly early at like 7:30 at the library, and then it's a quick ride. But last year we had, I think, 25, 30 kids the first time we did it, and then we did it again for the last day of school, and we had 50 kids. And altogether, we had double, that number with chaperones and parents. So the first time we had about 60 people riding. The second time we had about 100 people riding, and it was quite a production. It was really cool. So I'm also gonna, just as a heads up, I'm gonna be hitting up the Public Works Department for some additional focus on that line of travel for maybe some street sweeping, and we'll always be grateful for any additional commissioner participation in that event. So put that on your list.
Thank you, Carmen.
I'm not gonna, since we're running late, I'm not gonna bore you with the details, but I did listen in to the March 26th Bike and Ped Committee meeting with ODOT. There were some interesting things in there, and maybe at our regular meeting, if we have a little bit more time at the end of it, I can talk about that. They don't approve, that's the Front Street project. Their approval meeting for that is in July. So there's some time between now and then to talk about it. So that's it.
Thank you. Any other additional, Commissioner? Jamie?
Another May event is the Mayfly Festival, and Coco and I will be setting up a table there for the parks to go through at least two of the Adopt a Park projects. One is the dog waste things in the city, and the other one is the watershed in Mingus Park, to get people thinking about watersheds, because it's put on by Coos Watershed Association. And we're going to have maps up at the cabin splayed out, and we're going to take kids of all ages up there to have them trace with the maps that were getting made. Thank you very much, Jennifer and Micah. To follow, pretend like a drop of water. And where do you go? How do we get to the bay? Where do we go? So, and we'll trace all the different micro watersheds in there. Anyway, so I'm looking for any assistance at that table.
What date again?
The 17th, Saturday. May, excuse me. It's a Mayfly Festival.
So you're going to crawl in the tunnel down Farmers Market Street?
No. We are going to have a map, though, that shows how it goes from Mingus Pond to the bay. Yeah.
All right. All right. Staff, we're good?
We're all good. Thank you very much. Once again, if you guys have any comments, please email them to me. Maybe get them to me by Monday. That'd be great.
Thank you so much.
Hey, Ariana.
Yeah, Patty?
I just want to say that on Monday, April 14th, the mayors, Coos Bay North Bend mayors are going to do their walk on SWAC's campus, Southwestern Oregon Community College's campus, starting at noon. And then at 12:30 along the walk, we will do a ribbon cutting, kicking off phase 1 of our new trail project on the north end of campus, the trails that connect to Toppets. It's going to
Awesome.
get started.
Thank you. That's going to be a great project. All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate everyone being here today. Our meeting is adjourned.